Thank you. I'd like to invite our like next panelists, Yoav from Stage 1, Ankit from Gradient, and Samir from M12. Please come on over. You guys mic'd up? Okay. Cool. So what we'll do is we'll just have a quick panel discussion, and then we'll follow up with the startup demos. Okay, cool. So I'd like for you guys to introduce yourself and what you guys are working on. So Samir.
Hi, Samir Kumar, Managing Director in M12, which is Microsoft's venture arm. I lead our investments in propositions where AI or machine learning is core to what the company's building, as well as application areas like autonomous systems, and also things like AI and IoT, and in the future also looking at things like quantum computing.
Hi everyone, my name is Ankit Jain. I'm one of the founding partners of Gradient Ventures. It's Google's AI-focused fund. We invest $1 to $10 million in seed Series A and Series B companies that have AI at the core. Most of our companies are in one of two major buckets: infrastructure companies that are creating platforms to enable others to use AI, or companies that are taking AI and applying them to specific verticals.
Hi everybody, my name is Yoav Samet. I'm partner at Stage 1 Ventures. Stage 1 is a seed-focused venture capital fund investing on a crossroad of seed, Israel-related companies, and deep tech B2B. So we're not kind of AI exclusive, but everything that we see these days incorporates a level of AI, be it a core AI offering or AI as an enabler to disrupting existing sectors.
Thank you. We'll start with Yoav. What are you excited about these days? What are you working on?
So I'll try to limit it to the AI context here. There are several vectors that we started investing in which are more AI specific. One area where we have not done much before and we started spending more time on is where AI applies to digital healthcare. There was a mention of Visa AI by Sarah earlier on. And we were kind of chatting on the sideline. We personally view static imagery as a little bit of yesterday's news. We invested in a company that applies machine vision to surgical videos. So applying deep learning, machine learning on video data is an order of magnitude harder than doing that on static imagery. There's a lot of advancement and proofs already in the market for static imagery, but video is, we see it as the next frontier. That's one example. Conversational AI, there was a question that was raised here. We spent a lot of time looking at dimensions of conversational AI and made a bet in speech-based, deep conversational core AI company that hopefully will completely disrupt or automate drive-through in the QSR space, QSR being quick service restaurant. So, I mean, those are just two examples. I don't want to kind of ramble on, so I'll pass it on.
I think there's many areas that are currently being touched by AI. Almost every major industry is being affected in some way. There's two areas that I'll focus on to follow Yoav's lead here. One is in making data a first-class citizen. I think for the last so many years, as we think about AI, it's been about building models, it's about building infrastructure to enable building and scaling of those models, and even maintaining of those models. I think we're getting to a point where it's becoming more and more important to understand the flow of data from the time you collect it to when you clean it or label it, to when you build your models with it, to when it goes in production. At each of these stages, just like when you update a model, you have to make sure that the performance performance is improving, every time you change the data source or the size of data or the quality of data, you want to keep track of what the impact of that data change is. And so we're looking at a lot of infrastructure companies recently that are trying to make that process easier for everyone that is in the AI world. On a similar note, there's many areas where it's really hard to get access to the data. And this could be because of regulatory reasons. This could be because when you're first going as a startup and trying to get an enterprise deal, the enterprise isn't okay with you having access to their data right away. So there's a plethora of companies that are trying to generate synthetic data to make that an easier problem. Whether that means mimicking the original data and giving you data that resembles it so you can build your first model, iterate on it outside of the confines of that enterprise, or just using a lot of data synthesis methodologies or generative learning to create music or art. There's a lot of stuff on the generative side that's happening that's pretty exciting right now.
Yeah, so I'll just add really quickly to both of what Ankit and what was said about video. So many of you saw 20BN yesterday on the panel, and that's exactly why we're excited about them. They're an M12 portfolio company. We led their Series A. We do believe video is the next frontier in computer vision, and being able to solve video will unlock advances in language, will unlock advances in environmental understanding and scene understanding. And really, with video, you also heard from Facebook yesterday, one of the big challenges, how do you label the data? What does it mean to have a label? And so if you look at what 20BN is doing in their approach to how they label data and how they generate real-world data with the right labels, I think that's very exciting. And if you talk to all the researchers in this field, the consistent thing you hear, it's not about the models, it's how do you get the right high-quality label data to do the right supervision signal, and how do you get a data flywheel to be able to do that in whatever domain you're going after. So absolutely agree on the comments about data, so very excited about that. And to also add to what Sarah said earlier about side learning, I think of it as data exhaust. If you have a business, or you can stand up a business where there's a primary piece of value you're providing immediately to your customers, but you're collecting that data exhaust, and then that data exhaust can be used to improve your primary product, but can also potentially stand up new data businesses. That's something we get very, very excited about. And then the last thing I'll say is we are in a very, very exciting time in terms of silicon for AI, and especially at the edge for doing inference, and really exploiting what is happening in neural networks in terms of how parallel they are and how they do computation, and it's very different than what we're doing in CPUs or even GPUs today. And if you want to squeeze more and more neural network compute in areas where you're battery constrained, I think that's creating a renaissance for new innovation in silicon, and that's another area we're very, very excited about.
Well, thank you. The way I would think is now there's so much of hype about AI, right? Like kind of like everything is AI-fied right now. Like just like how people talk about database, like AI is the same thing, and especially when you look at the the enterprise side, where data is hard, the problems are hard, so enterprise, healthcare, what do you guys think about? We do understand, the unreasonable effectiveness of data and labeled data, but what about, the actual problem solving? Are there real applications out there? What are your general advice for our audience here? There are budding entrepreneurs here, data scientists. General sense from you, Samir?
Yeah, so I'll start and say I think you hit it on the head, which is you can have the most exciting potential application of AI. If you're a startup and you want to go to whatever enterprise organization and start to sell that, the first thing you're going to run into is the data is not in the state it needs to be. It exists in silos. Most likely it is not labeled in such a way that you can use it usefully for machine learning. And so you see a lot of time being spent in POCs just doing the data hygiene and the data preparation. So clearly that's an opportunity. If you can automate that part of the pipeline, the data processing pipeline, the data transformation, the data normalization, and make that available to enterprises, I think that will also be a catalyst for more enterprises being in a position to extract value from their data, and not being completely bogged down in hiring data scientists just to do the data preparation, let alone the machine learning and the analytics and the value you want to get from that data.
I actually think there's a huge opportunity here. I was talking to some people that run a foundation trying to figure out where they should go and invest a couple of $1 billion around the world to create the next level of jobs. When we often talk about AI, we talk about what it means from an automation perspective and losing jobs perspective, but I think going to Samir's point, it actually creates a huge opportunity to create jobs all around the world, to get data ready to then make things more efficient. And the number of enterprises and companies and verticals that are going to be affected in positive ways if managed correctly can be ginormous. And so I think the opportunity here is to create a platform that enables more companies to be data ready to take advantage of AI.
So, but that's on the data labeling and getting data ready. But there's this whole new thing about RPA, IPA, or whatever, which is the new hype at the moment. But fundamentally, they are really going after these low-wage workers who are doing screen scraping jobs. What do you in those areas? It's a race to the bottom, right? What are we creating jobs there, or are we eliminating jobs there?
So I'll give a very tangible example here. There's a friend's company that is trying to automate scheduling of appointments at clinics. And today, the way, if you go to a dentist's office or an orthopedic office, you call them, you schedule something, and the front desk worker sits there and says, hey, are you available 2 Tuesdays from now, either at 9 a.m. or 4:45 p.m. or 1:30 p.m., and it kind of goes back and forth. And you say, sorry, I've got to go pick up my child at this time. Do you have something on a Friday afternoon, because that's easy for me? And it kind of goes back and forth. What this company is doing is saying, well, let's take out the front desk person out of that role and do this over text message so that it can be at whatever asynchronous timescale that works. So then my obvious question to them was, so what is that person doing with the extra 3 hours a day that they're not on the phone scheduling? Are they not getting paid for 3 hours? And said, absolutely not, because that person is now making phone calls to insurance companies to get reimbursements and actually driving more revenue for that clinic that they didn't have time to do earlier. There's a lot more work that can be done that is higher value, and some of these automatable jobs, if you will, or automatable parts of the jobs are unlocking humans to do things that machines can't do today.
Yeah, what's your take on it?
So in the context of enterprise, right, we actually see a lot of companies coming in with various ideas on how to make flows of information and decision-making within the enterprise more efficient. There's a lot of data moving across sections within the enterprise, be it in the development or the product management or the sales process. But what we've found in many cases is that there is a kind of a cool idea and perhaps a great technology, but really looking for a solution. And in all these paradigms, I think the key question to ask, really fundamentally and very early, is who's going to pay for this? Is this a must-have or is this a nice-to-have? We've seen companies kind of making some of the DevOps process more efficient. One company came in with all the data that a product manager gets to help product definition become quicker and more streamlined. And there are a lot of companies that automate the SDR process all the way to full, the whole go-to-market or sales process. And at least from the ones that we've seen, the more you can really prove and measure the effect on tangible outcome for the company, that's when you'll get traction. There's a company, we're on the axis between Israel and the US. I'm based here, my partner is based in Israel. There's a company in Israel called Gong AI. I don't know if you guys are, they're doing really great stuff by monitoring all the flows of information when a company makes essentially a sales call. And they've been able to show a very significant improvement on customer conversion. If you're able to do something like that, you have a way to gain traction. And I won't repeat the points about the really importance of access to quality data and a quality of labeling of data, because without that, it's very difficult to create a kind of sustainable and valuable solution.
Yeah, and just to add to, if you think about Gong or Chorus, your question was about replacing, and I think this is a great example. It's about assisting. It's not about replacement. If you can make your salespeople better, that they can convert and close that opportunity, because when you're looking at what they're saying, what is the conversation happening with a customer, and you can tell them to say the right thing at the right time to make sure that they can move an opportunity to the next stage, they're going to be more efficient. And I don't think you can say, well, now we're going to replace the salesperson with an autonomous sales agent that will do this all themselves. And certainly their sales manager is going to be happier in that they can probably spend less time doing kind of human high-touch coaching and spending more time on how do I scale the organization, how do I find more opportunities. So I think we really have to look at it more optimistically. It's not about replacing, it's about assisting and making us more efficient. And the best example of this is if you think about ATMs and banks. We all, have heard the example, oh, if you're going to put ATMs in, then we're going to replace the tellers. But counterintuitively, what actually happened? Banks opened more branches and hired more tellers. So they scaled their operation through automation, not just replacing or killing off having human tellers.
Cool. Last question, very, very quick. Predictions for 2019.
I'll go first. I, like Ankit, am very, very excited about simulation and synthetic data and generative models. And so, it's not a replacement for real-world data, but I think we're going to see a lot of progress, like what the ANSYS presenter was talking about. You're going to have better hardware that's going to create more powerful simulations, which will create better AI, and it's going to be a loop. And so I think we're going to see a new set of capabilities around synthetic data and simulation to maybe close the gap between who has a data advantage and who doesn't, and also being able to speed up what it takes to build AI models by using more synthetic data. It's not a full replacement, but I think you'll be able to replace a lot of real-world data with synthetic variants.
When you go to the doctor today, just try to think how backwards we all are. Sometimes it feels like we're still in the Stone Age with respect to the ability to diagnose and provide you personalized, optimal diagnosis and care. I think in a coming year or two, we'll see fundamental advances of applications of AI into the healthcare process.
I actually really like the way Samir put the synthetic data and simulation part. If I had to predict something kind of out there that a few set of people will start working on in the next few years, I don't know if we'll see it at mass scale, but I think the one piece that AI can't do today is be persuasive or have empathy. Those are two parts of any kind of conversation or human-to-human interaction that today's AIs can't do, and I think there's going to be new groups of people, pods of people around the world that will start trying to solve those, and I think that's super exciting.
Thank you so much. So we'll move on to the startup demos right now. I don't know, what would be the best? Like, would it be good to be downstairs or here? Like, I guess it'd be, yeah, so it'll be easier. So if I could ask, the panelists to take the first row seats, and then I will call the startups,
Should we take this with us?
Yeah, first startup is Pipeline.ai. They are building fast, safe, and continuous machine learning application platform.
Hi. So this is great to follow operational AI and all the data problems. So we are a bunch of ex-VMware, ex-Databricks engineers. Pipeline.ai is a real-time machine learning enterprise platform. We were recently picked by Halliburton as their next-gen AI platform. So if the founder and the CEO, Chris Freegley, he's at a customer site today. So if you've been following him, he has the longest running machine learning runtime meetup. We are a 120,000 strong community. So when we build features, the features come directly from the community. We are not like, navel gazing and creating features. The GitHub stars, it's already outdated. We are way more than that. So if you go to the website, you can see a bunch of logos. They've already started, all these companies have stood up our free version, and they've sort of forked that and created their enterprise AI. The audience we sell to is kind of a mixed bag, just as is the case with our competitors, which makes our sales cycle kind of interesting. So, why pipeline AI, and what does pipeline AI do differently from the rest of the competitors? We take off where our competitors leave. So we are not in the batch space. We are online. We are real time. So like everybody said, everybody wants to be either a Lyft or an Uber, doing real time predictions. So if you talk to any VP of data science, the problems are, the bottlenecks are really, like the panel said, the data is not available. If the data is available, the quality is not good. If the quality is good, then you can't get it to production, right? And the reason you can't get, even if you got into production, the latency is so much that, it doesn't provide enough value to the application. So we try to be in that real-time space to speed up. We like to say we don't leave any models behind. We move every model to production. We try to do it real-time. We do hyperparameter optimization real-time, online. So we are multi-cloud. We're all clouds aware. You can be hybrid. You can be on-prem. We like to say we find you the best cloud, the best model in the best cloud at the best price. So we are in arbitrage, basically. People like to spend a lot of time in this slide. If you're doing a billion predictions, any cost you save, is critical. This whole thing about, marrying a single vendor is sort of a myth. We are all going to be multi-cloud. The customers we have today are multi-cloud, but depending on the prediction you're doing, depending on the vertical you're in, when you're doing billions of predictions, it makes sense to be doing, something that's image sensitive in GCP versus something else. So we take advantage of that arbitrage. So some of the features I want to call out, we are good at detecting bias, model decay. We do generate hardware-specific models. So if you're doing inference in the edge, then we generate TensorRT, neural compute models. We are Intel MKL friendly. So we do explainability and auditing using Skater and Lime. So this is sort of insights from our community. We kind of went over this. I would like to switch to demo. So the top 8 are, pretty popular frameworks. We support all of them. The bottom ones even are H2O. So if you click on projects and pick MNIST, which is popular. So we basically have already generated these models. So this is where, you upload the models, and we have multi-generated, additional models. So there are 10 of them here. And if you scroll down a little more, so you keep coming down. So, you can split, how you want to do the traffic. This is hyperparameter optimization. You can decide to minimize on which basis. So you can start to focus on the rest. Scroll down a little more. So you can see the same model, same Keras model has multiple servings there. There's Flask, there's TensorFlow Lite. It's because you picked different kinds of hyperparameter optimization. You can also pick multiple runtimes that you want. So if you scroll down a little more, keep coming down, you can click on the predict a couple of times. So we see some predictions, a couple more. Yeah, scroll down. So this, this you can compare between the different clouds, right? So if you keep coming down, you can compare between, all the predictions. This, we did only a couple of predictions, so we are not seeing, huge difference. But you can imagine if you're doing billions of predictions, you can sort of compare. This is where your application developer spends a lot of time. Today, they're not part of this cycle, right? So this is where the silos vanish, right? The application developer's right there, right next to the data scientist, right? So if you select the button, yeah, so you can see to the right, we made 3 predictions, so you can compare all the variances, confidences. If you keep coming down a little more, so we are based off Istio, so you can troubleshoot right there if you have any issues. And if you scroll down a little more, you can see explainability. So all the red ones are where some of the predictions were wrong. The idea is to click there and sort of troubleshoot right away. You can scroll up. Thank you. Hopefully that gives you an idea.
Number 9.
Can you, okay. Wow, so you guys are doing a lot and
Yes.
solving multiple useful problems. I guess if you look at, where do you hang your hat on key differentiators versus alternative frameworks? What would that be? And then if you could say a little bit about your business model. You mentioned there's people that have forked your GitHub repository and are using it for free, but who's paying? How much are they paying? What does that look like?
Yeah, so great question. So the differentiation is primarily the fact that we're doing real time rather than batch. So everybody else is in the batch space. And today, if you had to use, everybody keeps asking, all the VCs are scared about reinvent, right? So even, there you would have to cobble together a bunch of tools together to get the same experience. Also, who we sell to, we try to find internal champions. The places where we've been successful is being the machine learning engineer. And they become a vocal supporter, and you sort of sell to all the different people. The CIO does not have the same agenda as your CTO, CDO. So basically, it's a different sales story to each of those parties. So the people who are paying are really vertical clouds are a great customer for us. Primary example is oil and gas cloud. So you can think of, there are mobile operators who are interested, not Newstar, but like Newstar. So anybody who's doing, online prediction in large volume, and you want to go multi-cloud. So, retail does not want to be on AWS. So, so all of those things play to us, and it's an arbitrage. So we mark up. So it's we have a notion of pipeline unit hours, pretty much like Databricks. So as the predictions go up, the pipeline unit hours go up, and so we make money. So.
Quick question: do you guys also do anything on the real-time training side, or is it purely on the inference side?
Yeah, so we really want it to be only on the inference side, but it's very clear. We don't want the dev training revenue. But a lot of people are there, so we are happy to do the distributed training. We are happy to move that to be online, right? So this is how we help, oil and gas cloud, for instance. You can do online training instead of streaming is in the picture, right? Instead of doing batch.
So certainly you're doing a lot. So just one point of skepticism as a VC is, wow, a small company, and there's a lot of logos on your site. So there was one question there. But actually the point I'll raise is regarding explainability, because I forgot to mention to the question what's up for 2019. I think the need for explainability is going to rise with GDPR, with the real importance of understanding what eventually drove to a decision. So I think that's actually great breeding ground for a startup just in and of itself. But on that dimension, what do you guys do?
Yeah, so we are actually making it more robust as we go along. I also wanted to point out that one of the primary differences is that we generate multiple models. So when you upload, if you're in regulatory business, right, if you're doing mortgage application, it's not enough to show, the outcome to the regulators. It's not enough to show just the one where you made the loan, right? You need to show the 5-6 shadow models which could have given a different outcome, and that's where the explainability becomes really key. It's a pure fintech requirement, and a lot of them are hand doing. So this is sort of the first thing we tackled because of experience a lot of us had in dealing with others looking to automate that piece. So we now use Cater and Lime, and we have our own variation of the libraries as well. It's one area where we have to become more robust, that's for sure. So.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next up is SyncThink. SyncThink's revolutionary technology gives clinicians the objective metrics for real-time decision making.
Hey everyone, really excited to be here. I'm Dan Beeler, CTO at SyncThink. We are a brain health and attention analytics company. I've personally been involved with this effort for quite some time, about 7 years. I got involved with the initial clinical research behind it, working with Dr. Jain, who's the inventor of this technique. He is a professor of neurosurgery at Stanford and director of the Brain Performance and Concussion Clinic there. Since then, we've commercialized the technology and grown our team to about 10 or 12 members. Our CEO is Laura Yeeses, who is on site on the East Coast today. So let's get into it. Great. So we have an epidemic in brain health. 1 in 4 Americans suffers from a brain health condition. And you can see it every day. Our population is aging. We're supporting more and more people in cognitive decline. Adults and children are on ADHD medication for their entire lives. And we see on TV every week in football, athletes, parents are becoming more and more sensitive to concussion. And across the board in brain health, our tools are unsatisfactory. We have subjective evaluations. That expertise is concentrated in population centers and is unavailable to the vast majority of us. So new mobile objective brain health metrics are needed. Eyes are the window to the brain that we need. We are constantly synthesizing sensory input from the world around us and coordinating our behavior appropriately. Visual information is the largest component to this input. And to maximize the throughput of information, we do something called paying attention. And using eye tracking analytics, we can objectively and directly measure attention. This is our solution. It's called SyncThink. It is a mobile brain health analytics platform. We provide fast 60-second objective assessments over several modalities of visual orientation. We provide automated analysis, and we provide real-time synchronization to a centralized data platform. This technology is backed by over 30 peer-reviewed publications from our research partners, 13 issued patents, and we also carry an FDA clearance. Market opportunities for SyncThink cover both clinical and consumer markets. Our near-term opportunities are in concussion, balance, and brain performance. In the long term, we see opportunities in ADHD, Alzheimer's dementia, fatigue, and mobile advertising. All of these are billion-dollar opportunities. So how does it work? So SyncThink detects impairments through eye tracking analytics. So we measure your ability to synchronize with predictably moving stimuli. So I'm going to move directly into our demo, and I have one right here. This is our SyncThink platform. If I could get the help from one of our panelists here. So I'm going to do an assessment on myself while one of our panelists here administers that assessment. Could you hit iSync for me? Okay, and we're automatically connected over Bluetooth. I'm going to select a sample group and a sample member, and we're going to do the smooth pursuit assessment. You can hit assess there. And you can continue through those defaults. Can you hit continue for me? Sorry. So as you can see on the display, we have a live view of my eyes, or a live view from inside the headset. I'm just going to direct you back one and for the same smooth pursuit. So hit assessment, please. And right now, I'm going to do a quick 5-point calibration. So right now in this VR headset, which is a modified Gear VR, we have eye tracking sensors in the infrared. And that's determining the curvature of my cornea, my optical axis, and ultimately with that calibration, where I'm looking at on the screen here. So on the tablet that our panelists are using right now, they see a live view of my eyes and the same reference points that I'm looking at inside the display. And this is our smooth pursuit task. It's 12 cycles of smooth motion, so I'm seeing a smoother version of what they're seeing on the tablet there. And this entire time, we are capturing my eye tracking information. And the goal here is not to confuse or stress the user, it's to create the most predictable environment possible and then evaluate my ability to synchronize with that visual information. So it's a 60-second task, and after it's complete, that information is sent over to the tablet for an automated analysis. And you can see here we have my eye tracking information relative to the center of the display that I was looking at and relative to the target. And we break that down into two primary components. Can we bring the slides back up? So here are two examples for fatigue and concussion. In concussion, we see a large timing deficit. And for fatigue, what we see is more of a spatial deficit. And we are providing this value through a visual orientation suite for assessment, straight through training, and immersive performance applications with biofeedback. And we are providing those to actual customers that are providing actual revenue for our company. And this includes athletic market, hospitals and clinics, and the military. And these are all subscription customers who purchase the hardware on annual subscription. And all that data is fed directly into a real-time analytics repository. So the input to this is that eye tracking information. The output are the classifiers and the clinical specificity that we've determined through our clinical research. It's the largest eye tracking database in the world, 15,000 users, between SyncThink current customers and our research databases with the Brain Trauma Foundation, Pac-12, and Stanford. And our research pipeline is very deep. We continue to build out these outcomes for our eye tracking information. And the future here is back to that original idea, this measure of visual orientation. So we're currently correlating measures of attention with clinical outcomes. And this is our product roadmap here. We continue to build out from a customized platform to off-the-shelf technology using eye tracking, building out our ability to understand and evaluate visual orientation, correlating those with clinical outcomes, and eventually integrating that into a dynamic attention platform that can be used on mass platform devices. Thank you.
In the interest of the time, we'll take the questions offline. Okay. We'll move on to the next startup. Okay. Or maybe a quick question, like, okay. Samir, any questions?
Just one question. So you said there was 30 peer-reviewed publications. So for building these models for, you know, ADHD or marijuana impairment, like, what do you have to do to collect ground truth data to be able to then, with high confidence, say your classifiers are classifying this accurately?
That's right. So one thing that I was able to demonstrate with our platform today is that we are essentially at head health EMR. So our customers are not only using us to evaluate eye tracking orientation on their clinical population, but they're inputting outcomes into that. So diagnosis for things like concussion and fatigue, demographic information, medical histories, and all of that is correlated into our database, as well as follow-up and longitudinal information to resolve those injuries.
Thank you so much. And the next startup is Earth.ai. They have invented a new generation mineral exploration technology.
Hi everyone, my name is Roman. I'm the CEO and founder of Earth.ai. We are the first ever AI platform, AI technology to find real-world mineral deposits. The first thing to realize is that everything humans ever invented is made of metals and minerals. Electric cars need a lot of lithium, cobalt, and zinc, and all the electronics needs copper and gold. But we don't have enough. The copper is in deficit for years, while zinc and other metals are reaching critically low levels. Metals don't just turn up to factories. Geologists have to find them, and miners have to dig them out of the ground. But we aren't doing so well. Since 2000, the exploration costs have been skyrocketing, while the number of new deposits found is stable to going down. Why is that? Because ore bodies are really small and really hard to find. You can fit 421 ore bodies just in full exposed, just in San Francisco airport area. So considering the size of the United States, it's really like looking for a needle in a haystack. And it gets a bit worse just because all the fully exposed and obvious ore bodies have been already found before and mined out. So now we're really looking for tips of needles or chemical signatures of those needles that comes through to the surface through the faults or soil processes and have a very small footprint. So Earth.ai tackles this problem of finding ore bodies by analyzing continent-wide remote sensing, geophysical, and geochemical data sets, training on them, and predicting where to look for a new deposit. We are based in Australia, so I'll just show you 200 years of exploration data across Australia. It's very sort of focused on known mining regions like Mount Isa or Eastern Goldfields. Well, there is still a couple of million data points, but it's even in the mining regions, it's very sort of irregular. Where people found it, they were like more dense with their sampling. So we are training on all the known sort of deposits and known data to predict and explore in unexplored areas, like Northern Territory, which is a lot of free unexplored areas. Here's an example of our work. We trained on all the cobalt database and predicted over Maran cobalt mine. It's owned by Glencore, so they don't really release any of their data into the public domain, so it's a fair sort of test. The points represent sort of data points with similar data signature to all the known cobalt mineral occurrences. And we repredicted the stockpiles, the mine pits, and generated a lot of additional exploration targets. The other example is Wodgina lithium mine. It's a bit north in Western Australia. I can't point, but there is a. I can't point. The small red cluster to the right from the red star is Wodgina lithium deposit, which is now the world's largest lithium deposit, hard rock lithium deposit in the world. Again, there was no public data before. So these are just points on the screen. What the next stage would be to go out to the field and check those predictions. So since April this year, we built up all the infrastructure, so the car, tent, equipment, water, aircon, and shower, to be able to work for a week or two in super remote locations. So we have two teams of field geologists that do the work. And here's what we find. Like, textbooks say you can't find this anymore. It's a gossan, it's an iron cap on top of an ore body, and it has copper, lead, zinc, and vanadium mineralization. And the highest grade of vanadium we got is 0.5% vanadium-205, which is equivalent to 8 grams of gold per ton. So it's a pretty high grade. Or this, it's a kilometer-long soil anomaly of copper, reaching as high as 0.25% copper. Or this one, which is really interesting. We were finding these copper and zinc prospects one by one, and then when we kind of looked back, and it's a very big area, look back at where can we apply for the mineral license, and we realized they're a part of all aligned on this 50-kilometer long remote sensing anomaly. iron remote sensing anomaly. So we applied for there. So far we found 17 prospects with copper, lead, zinc, and vanadium mineralization, while spending only $140,000 on field work. But we didn't do any drilling, of course. It's all very early stage greenfield exploration. Compared to all the ASX-listed exploration companies, which spent $600 million to find 81 prospects, and only 22 of them are actually brand new. The rest is kind of red road, old, known occurrences. So our business model is discovery, joint venture, and sale of mineral deposits. We deposit, prospect is just like showing it's an indicator there is a deposit. What we need to do next is to sort of measure a size of ore body underground. So we're doing that. We're building sort of drone-based magnetic sensing, and we also bought a drill rig, sort of trying to automate that to lower the cost of drilling. And then when you find a deposit, you can sell it on average sort of 5 to 75 million for a smaller body, or well, here are the examples of like really big discoveries that in the last decade can reach up to $500 million to $2 billion. There's a couple of, so it's a very new field, a couple of early competitors, Goldspot, the Canadian sort of geological consultancy, or IBM is working with Gold Corp on improving the near mine exploration success. Well, our main defensibility is, well, it's completely new research. Our system design, our technology is kind of new. Nobody knows about it. The data sets, as one of the panelists said today, we worked all the last year to sort of build those automated data enrichment and fixing the errors tools. And we gathered all the data across Australia, and we train on it. But the main advantage is our exploration licenses. So if we are first to go and find a prospect and secure that area across the world, these areas across the world, and they're ours forever if we keep exploring them. Here's our team. I'm a geologist. I worked in exploration. Also was doing a PhD, but had to drop out to do Earth AI. Isabella, she's a management superstar. Yifan, he has PhD in physics and neural networks, and he's our CTO. Igor is my co-founder, and he's now in charge of production analysis. So with metal and mineral demand to double or triple in the next 20, 30 years, our mission is to supply the world with needed resources for new technologies. And if we ever move to Mars, we can't do it the same way. We have to land in the area where we know for sure there will be enough minerals to build a successful colony. So we're raising a Series A right now to explore all Australia and start Americas, and to sort of monetize one or two of our discoveries. Thanks a lot for your attention. If you're an investor, you're involved in mining, or you're a passionate AI engineer, we're really looking forward to talk to you. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions from the panelists?
Could you talk a little bit about the kinds of data that are needed that you have collected today in Australia, and what it would take to go to other parts of the world, and whether those data sources are public, whether they're private, and what you need to do to clean them, as we talked about earlier, to get it ready to create something like this?
Yeah, so first of all, like multi-spectral remote sensing data, it's open source, available around the whole world. It's just low quality. There's a lot of clouds or so displacement, so you have to go through that. Like we have built the sort of automatic cloud removal algorithms, or like referencing, all of that. We have it done, and we have a big training database right now in Australia that we can use to train and apply elsewhere. In geophysics, it's gravity, magnetics, radiometry. And sort of exploration data is where people went and sampled the chemical contents in soils and rocks. So it's all sort of fragmented in its different sources. Some of it is proprietary, a lot of it is sort of open source, but low quality. In separate states have their own sort of databases. But in terms of going somewhere else, the best sort of advantage of our technology is that we can train on Australia and predict, for example, somewhere in Chile where it's unexplored, but it's similar terrain, and you can just predict there.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Next up is Pefin. Pefin provides AI-based financial planning and advice. This is the one. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ramya Joseph. I'm the CEO and founder of Pefin. We are the world's first AI-based financial advisor. In financial services today, adapt or become a dinosaur is truer than ever. Fiduciary standards are tightening globally, leading to higher compliance costs and profitability challenges, while on the other hand, consumers are expecting personalized services and holistic services for their financial needs. So Pefin has been working for over seven years to build a platform that provides fiduciary financial planning and advice, just like a world-class financial advisor. There are over 3 parts to Pefin: the AI financial planner, an AI-based financial advisor, and AI financial products. So financial planning is a complex and non-linear problem, and most importantly, it has to be solved uniquely to an individual's circumstances. With Pefin, your major life events like having a baby, sending that child to college, buying a home, retirement, are much bigger than savings goals. We actually show you how plans affect one another and can answer complex questions like, how soon can I retire? How big a home can I buy? Am I buying too big a home? If I take a couple years off, can I still afford to send my children to the college of their dreams? The user receives a long-term financial plan that is updated 24/7 with changing rules, changing markets, changing priorities, no meetings required. We use the thousands of features that comprise a user's current and future financial situation and use supervised learning techniques to help them figure out, how should I save? When should I pay off debt? And how should I invest to make my plans achievable? For a single user, we evaluate anywhere from 2 to 5 million data points, depending on that user's financial complexity, to ensure that the advice they receive is accurate and not generic. Most importantly, the AI is fiduciary and unbiased by design. The AI platform that Pefin's built is being further extended into financial products. Using the features that are part of a user's financial plan and financial advice, we can pinpoint when is the best time to contact the user around major purchases like insurance, refinancing, investment opportunities, and more. For the client, it provides clarity and relevance around major financial product purchasing decisions. For this reason, we've been approached by major financial institutions all over the globe to partner and bring this solution to their clients. So at Pefin, we are building for a future where anyone can access the advice they need, regardless of age, gender, financial expertise, or even their wealth. And when we talk about real disruption, it's important to not just focus on the latest technology, but how do you apply that technology that really affects the lives of individuals? And when it comes to our financial lives, AI can take center stage in the financial planning and advice process. And that is what we strive to do at Pefin, which is to use AI to actually improve the lives of these individuals. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to speak up so you can hear me. So thank you. You mentioned that you've been doing this for about 7 years. It would be good to hear what's been that journey from the inception of the company to today. how are users finding you? What besides partnering with large financial institutions, what does the go-to-market look like?
Yeah.
And a little bit on hearing about the team. Like, why are you in a position to pull this off relative to somebody else?
Oh, excellent question. So, so I'll talk about the journey first. So we started in 2012 around the credit crisis when I had to help my father navigate through a very complex retirement. I was actually at Goldman Sachs at the time. And so the idea was formed around that time. For 2 years, we actually spent building out the infrastructure, security, the data engines, the data models. We didn't even have a UI until 2013. We spent a year then building out a UI and a customer experience, and we launched into beta in 2015. And we actually spent 2 years in beta. And in beta, we got all of about 5,000 customers joining our beta, mainly through word of mouth and one life hacker article. And that gave us a rich enough data set to actually do the AI, right? The advisory process. Because when we launched in beta, we launched only with planning, because planning is our feature set. And once we did that, that led to the advisory engine being created, as well as the financial product engine just getting created. We've been very fortunate. We've spent zero marketing dollars to get these users in the door, and we continue to get users in the door. We recently won People's Choice at South by Southwest, so that led to an influx of users. Right? Similarly, because of that, financial institutions have been finding us and knocking on our door. So to date, we just recently hired our head of distribution and sales. So very, very fortunate in that regard. What uniquely positions us is my background is in AI. I studied AI, but I also studied financial engineering, and I worked in financial services for a number of years. And I worked in algorithmic trading at its infancy. I saw what algorithms can do to an industry. And then I worked in high-frequency prop trading. So I'm very comfortable merging finance and technology together. But we also have an incredibly intelligent team. We're predominantly product and tech, but it spans across infrastructure, database, AI engineers, data engineers, and of course myself. I love product. I'm a product-based CEO, so yeah.
Could you talk a little bit about how you're planning on building the brand? Because a big part of success of these kind of products is brand. When someone is planning out their retirement, they're thinking 20, 30, 40, 50 years ahead, and they don't want to risk it on a startup versus a MetLife or a company that they've been hearing about, that their parents and their grandparents have talked about.
Right.
As a newcomer in the space, relatively, how do you think about that?
So I'm going to answer that twofold. So for the distribution channel that is B2B2C, we aren't the brand. We're the engine that powers the brand. So we don't worry about brand in that case. For the direct-to-consumer business, it's an actual super interesting question, right? Brand is exceptionally difficult to build in our space, in financial services. So I've always thought about direct-to-consumer more like Pefin Labs, right? It is where you come to try something new, to actually see if you get the advice you need. And the product somehow has to show for itself. I'm not a brand person. I'll be very, very honest with you. But I think the best way to build a brand is threefold. One, deliver what you're actually promising these people. Like, deliver the advice, deliver the planning. Don't charge them ridiculous amounts of money in the upwards of $2,000 to do so. Two, there's no strings attached. You do not have to invest with us. You do not have to purchase anything from us. You can access this planning and advice as a subscription, no strings attached. Three, I don't sell your data, right? There's absolutely no, it's private, it's yours. I don't do it. I don't do anything with it. There's a bigger problem in financial services when it comes to brand, which is financial literacy. And I think giving users the opportunity to try you out, to actually see what we can do, is going to be a huge component in building brand. The actual words that go with the brand, that's going to have to come from somebody with a little bit more brand messaging expertise than me. Just blunt. Okay, yeah.
A very impressive journey so far. I have to say, I was brought into this last minute. I haven't had a chance to look at the companies except yours. I actually went to your website and I started registering.
Okay.
I am a customer Wealthfront, and it took a hurdle for me to provide them all my access to all my accounts and all my, and I was wondering, you know, I started walking through your process and seeing, okay, how intrusive is it going to be? And I stopped at the point where it started asking for all those password data and all that.
Yeah.
So I guess it is related to the previous question. Help me cross this barrier, because you made on one hand a good point that you're kind of Switzerland because you're not actually investing and all that, but it's kind of like a double-edged sword too, right? Because from my perspective, if I'm already providing that data to somebody, all right, let me leverage that for some transactional benefit as well.
Yeah.
So
That's a good question. So to clarify, we don't insist you invest with us, but we do have a registered investment advisor subsidiary. So if you want us to manage your investments, we absolutely can. And we do it very differently from a robo because we manage down your liquidity pathway as well. So for example, suppose you're buying a home in a year's time. If you go to Wealthfront or Betterment, they're not going to know that about you, and you're going to get a risk score and you're going to get a portfolio. But we know you're going to need that money in a year's time, and we start managing the risk downwards for that. Now, to answer your question around onboarding, we don't require that a user do the onboarding at one stretch, and we can also work with high-level numbers. So suppose you come into our platform and you say, I don't have the time to connect all these accounts. You can just tell us at a very high level, how much have you saved? What do you have in debt? You can still avail of financial planning. Where the aggregation comes in, it improves the engagement, right? You have a financial plan with us. You say, look, I'm going to cut back my expenses 5%. If you don't aggregate your accounts, I can't track that. So then I can nudge you and prompt you to do that. Now we're a startup, right? And as I mentioned, we spent more effort on infrastructure and the AI than we did the UX. But as we're launching, we're currently a web platform, as you know. As we're launching mobile, we're actually completely reshifting onboarding. Onboarding right now follows a very traditional advisory process where you enter your information, you do your planning, you get your result. It needs to flip. You need to do your planning. You need to get some idea of what it is that we can help you with. Then you tell us something about you, you get your results. So it is a UX issue that we need to fix, but we're not very far away from fixing it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Next up is Tribyl, customer intelligence platform.
Guys, almost done, right? No slides. We're going to try this without slides. Hi, Sanjeev Samani, founder, CEO of Tribyl. Prior to Tribyl, I was at Salesforce, where I helped grow the platform business to over $1 billion. I was the chief operating officer. In my time at Salesforce, I basically realized one fundamental truth. Salespeople, good salespeople, are great storytellers. The challenge is, as soon as a rep walks into the door, we inundate them with product knowledge. We give them a generic sales manual, and we say, good luck, good selling. Imagine if you're a sales rep on Burger King, and you're trying to pitch a product called Heroku, which many of you may have heard, to the CMO. What would you even say? Well, if we were to tell you that the reason Red Robin, a comparable account to Burger King, bought Heroku is because the CMO wanted to engage the digital millennials with a mobile app, and that internal IT was dragging its feet, and therefore Heroku came to the rescue from a time-to-market standpoint. Now that's a cool story I can go repeat. The problem is, Benioff built a $100 billion business with CRM and structured customer data, but CRMs don't give you stories. They don't generate actionable content that help you replicate wins and minimize losses, and that's where Tribyl comes in. So Tribyl, think of Tribyl as a Netflix for enterprises. We generate actionable stories for wins and losses, and we share those stories just in time with sales, marketing, product, so that enterprises fundamentally solve the vacuum of customer intelligence, but they do so in a very actionable, content-driven way. Tribyl for us is the next Salesforce. So the last 20 years was Salesforce building a play around structured customer data. We are trying to build a play around unstructured customer data. So rather than just me talking about it, I'm just going to show you a couple of use cases. So somebody out there, if you can please run the first mini video. We're going to talk about how Tribyl is equipping excuse me, SDRs and inside sales with actionable stories so they get better response rates. They actually have a better chance of connecting with decision makers. The second use case I'm going to talk about is how Tribyl is helping with actionable win-loss insights for sales, marketing, and product leaders.
Hi, welcome to Tribyl's mini demo series. Tribyl coaches sales reps on what A players ask, say, and do at every stage of the funnel.
Sorry, guys.
Tribyl reduces ramp time and drives up to an 8% increase in average quota attainment.
I don't see the video.
In this mini demo, we're going to look at how Tribyl helps SDRs crush their pipeline goals. Today, SDRs struggle to rise above the noise in creating a great first impression. In this video, we'll see how Tribyl helps Jain, an SDR, successfully prospect and land a meeting with the decision maker. Hi, I'm Jain, an SDR. We're running a new digital transformation campaign. I'm getting ready to send my first prospecting email to one of my accounts, Bank of America. I'm going to use Tribyl's conversation planner to do my research, find the right decision maker job titles, and craft a compelling message. With just a few clicks, I'm going to load fresh insights on why similar customers bought from us in the past. To open strong, I need to hit on relevant economic drivers. There, digital adoption targets is the most popular economic driver for similar buyers. I'm getting smart on this KPI by reading up on the brief description, relevant content, and learning why this KPI mattered to buyers in similar deals. Similarly, I can view what pain points have come up in most wins of this type. Nice. I now have enough ammo for a compelling hook. Next, I'm going to grab a fresh case study that will resonate with this prospect. There, Morgan and Lewis. Let's take a look at the tear sheet. Finally, I can look up proven decision maker job titles easily. I trust these because they come from similar deals. Finding contact information is a breeze from here. Awesome. Thanks to Tribyl, I got a reply back from the decision maker in just a few hours, agreeing to a meeting. What made my day, though, was the compliment he threw in about my well-researched email. Jain just opened doors to a large opportunity at Bank of America. In just a few clicks, she was able to pinpoint the decision maker, create a compelling message, and land a meeting. Tribyl's purpose-built AI platform automatically extracts these insights from unstructured data, such as calls, emails, CRM notes, and even documents, enabling your organization to replicate wins and minimize losses at scale. Next up, let's see how Tribyl helps Sally, a new AE, crush discovery.
All right, so we're not going to go to the other one, but I wanted to show you guys a second use case, which is just about playing up. So this time the focus is management. So I don't know if you guys have been in QBRs in enterprises, and it's usually a shit show, right? Somebody's pointing fingers at other people, like it's not marketing, it's products, it's not product, it's sales. The problem is everybody's right and wrong because the real challenge is lack of insight into why and how customers buy. So we're going to quickly walk through a demo on that.
Hi, welcome to Tribyl's mini demo series. In addition to coaching sales reps on what A players ask, say, and do at every stage of the funnel, Tribyl provides actionable win-loss insights to management. Let's learn more. In this mini demo, let's take a quick look at Tribyl's win-loss analytics capabilities and how that can transform go-to-market alignment. CRMs are great at reporting on wins and losses, but don't provide actionable insights on why you are winning or losing. As a result, enterprises struggle to achieve alignment across sales, marketing, product, and customer success. Tribyl's buyer intelligence platform helps create a single source of truth on your customers' buying journeys, allowing teams to replicate wins and minimize losses at scale, driving profitable revenue growth. In this video, we'll dive into how these insights can transform key alignment processes, such as monthly and quarterly business reviews. Let's open up Tribyl's win-loss dashboard. Let's say the management team is interested in replicating wins with the marketing buyer next quarter. We can go to the dashboard filters, and we want to select marketing as the buying center. We can specify if we want to analyze wins or losses. In this case, we'll select close one. Optionally, we can add additional filters by deal size, industry, market, or region. Now we simply hit refresh. And there you have it. Tribyl's analyzed all wins that meet the above criteria, and within seconds has surfaced actionable buying journey insights, packaged in Tribyl's taxonomy and card structure. Let's dig into this dashboard and learn how go-to-market teams can use it to take action. The campaign's marketing team can incorporate proven economic drivers and pain points into email templates, resulting in more qualified leads. For example, the #1 economic driver for the marketing buyer, sorted by number of wins, is customer retention. Similarly, list buys can focus on proven job titles that can be found here, leading to higher response rates. Product marketing can align pitch decks to value propositions correlated with highest number of wins. Sales enablement can do a quick refresher course on objection handling and update battle cards for relevant competitors. Customer marketing can invest limited resources on the right video testimonials by reviewing popular stories here. Wow, imagine reviewing this dashboard in your monthly and quarterly business reviews. Oh, one more thing. This dashboard is interactive. Let's say we want to learn more about why customers find the 360-degree analytics value prop appealing. All we have to do is click on the card. And voila, we now see the deals in which this feature played a key role. By reviewing the deal context fields, we can immediately learn why those customers found this feature so important. Always good to know the voice of the customer. And it's easy to contact the account owners mentioned here in case of more questions.
That's good. I
That's
think we
it.
can shut it off.
We use
Thanks.
Any quick questions?
Hello? Yeah, hi.
Hi.
So my question is, I guess, what dimensions of, we're in an AI conference, what dimensions of AI are being implemented here? Because I saw, I mean, at least from what I'm seeing, there's some NLP there to identify certain structures, your regular expressions to sort and list. But are there any other dimensions of AI that relate to machine learning, deep learning, or any sort of regression analyses? Or
Yeah, so definitely NLP and machine learning. The point of Tribyl is NLP is not going to be able to extract a pain point from a virgin email, right? So we have a proprietary taxonomy that allows us to extract this knowledge, whether it's a pain point or an objection, and then we use NLP and ML to match against incoming calls, emails. So that's why we're kind of agnostic to the input channel. It could be like many of our pilot customers we are talking to use Gong, some use Chorus, some are on Gmail, we don't really care, right? For us, we extract insights from all these sources, try and answer the question, was this particular pain point discussed meaningfully with the customer over a 9-month-long sales cycle? And then we essentially create a story around that. And then we also use summarization techniques to be able to say, here is a context. You saw the voice of the customer in which this pain point was discussed. So that essentially adds to the domain knowledge of reps because they now know how to talk the language of the customer.
So the first part where you were talking without slides really resonated with me because I got the idea that you want to enable SDRs to tell stories. The part of the 2 webinars, I don't know how the others feel, but I kind of felt like it got too detailed on each individual feature, which is great when you're going and doing a sale, but what I kind of was not able to figure out is how the data of the stories gets in there. The tribal knowledge gets into the system, and I wish that during the time on stage, you were able to kind of say every time we're able to close something, your infrastructure enables SDRs or the salespeople to then enter that data, which can then be surfaced to the SDR through your tools. And maybe that was there, but I didn't quite follow that piece.
Sure. So, first, it's only 5 minutes, right? Second, frankly, some of the things are proprietary for us in terms of how we actually go about this. So you can imagine it's hard for us to share this in an open forum like that. And finally, we are more focused on the so what. From a value perspective, people are kind of not paying us for getting data in. They're talking about what to do once the data is in it, right? So from our standpoint, it's important to highlight the value of the use cases. And SDRs is just one of the use cases. As you probably saw, we are also helping AEs through the entire buying process. The biggest challenge with AEs is how to run a discovery call. Right? People are just not comfortable asking questions that are specific to the domain and the buyer persona. We actually feed questions to the reps, which was in another video, and kind of give them the talking points to actually have a conversation that establishes trust.
Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is cattle care. We're going to look at autonomous dairy farms.
Hi everyone, I am Artem, the CEO at Cattle Care, operating system for dairy farms based on computer vision. Most people think that dairy farms look like this, but in reality, they look like that. In a one barn like that, 1,000 cows spend their whole life. Profit of dairy farm highly depends on the health and efficiency of every cow. Some of these cows are sick. Some of these cows need to be bred, but we can't see this until we observe them in a 24/7 mode. If we were able to monitor every cow, average American farm would make $1 million more in revenue. It turns out that cows are literally living barcodes, and we can identify them by their unique black and white skin patterns. After that, our AI algorithms track every cow, collecting its behavioral parameters such as walking distance, eating time, drinking time, interactions with each other to detect diseases at early stage. Moreover, with the same cameras, we can be sure that cows are fed, breeded, and treated right in time, and there are no employee mistakes. We can monitor business processes on the farm. On our launched farms in California, the system works like this. First of all, we detect the problem. For example, here you can see lack of feed. Then we send an alert to responsible employee, and afterwards the system checks if the problem is solved. By using our product, farmers have $450 profit increase per cow. To get this, they pay $75 per cow, which means Cattle Care makes $150K per farm per year in average. Market size is more than $30 billion per year in the United States alone. It turns out that our product also increases feed intake, which means instead of selling to thousands of dairy farmers, we sell to 10 big feed manufacturers in the United States. Milk processors Producers of milk equipment and dairy cooperative have similar reasons to resell our product to farmers. That story wouldn't be possible without my team. My co-founder, Anton, has more than 10 years of experience in computer vision, particularly in deep learning and face recognition. My co-founder, Ilya, has been producing and selling equipment to dairy farmers. Dr. Enrique works with 9% of all dairy cows in the United States. I previously co-founded and headed up a company where we used computer vision to help retailers monitor their customers. Additionally, with cattle care, every cow is treated, fed, and bred right in time without any hormones, which means happier and healthier cows and better quality of the milk. Thank you very much. Feel free to reach out to me afterwards.
Really enjoyed that picture. It was very crisp and to the point. A few companies that we've seen in this space are taking slightly different approach. Instead of a top-down kind of view on the farm, they're measuring different properties of the milk that's coming out of cows to detect how healthy a cow is, whether they're being fed correctly. And it's just two ways of going to the same problem. Could you compare to those kind of technologies and what some of the pros and cons of your methodology are?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There are companies who do this approach, who try to check the milk and what is the number of somatic cells and different parameters of milk, and they can discover some problems that we can't detect. And otherwise, we also can detect some things, especially about business processes on the dairy. What we found that a lot of losses and farmers have because of mistakes in processes. So we just can't monitor what's going on. Do cows have enough feed and so on? And so we are kind of two complementary systems with guys who do milk checks.
So first of all, love the societal good and animal welfare angle to what you're building. So congratulations on going after that. Could you comment a little bit about your data strategy? So if you think about these dairy farms, what does that workflow look like? You've got cameras, you're collecting data. How do you get ground truth as to what an animal should be doing versus what they're doing? Mm-hmm. Who's labeling that? And then who owns the data? Is it the farmers? Is it your customers? Mm-hmm. Do you get the rights to data? Like, what does that look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we own this anonymized cows data, and we collect the data and we use manual labeling, and we rely on studies, we rely on experts, and we check on every farm, we check cows after our system gave some insight, we check to find kind of ground truth, and as for now, we can say that, hey, this is a deviation in feeding behavior of that animal, and this deviation, based on studies, means that cow has acidosis or ketosis, and then when veterinarian checks it, we get this feedback loop, and we use it to be able to predict, with high accuracy what exactly disease it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have the last startup. This is Triton. It helps users turn into subscribers using content.
Hi everyone, my name is Simba and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Triton. At Triton, we help content companies turn users into subscribers. We do that by helping them understand their behavioral segments of users, understand the conversion funnel, and finally by using personalization to optimize that user journey and directly drive more subscriptions. We just finished the SCADEC cohort. We have paying customers. We're starting pilots with big brands, such as the CW and Vanity Fair. And the future is subscriptions. Most content companies have moved from an ad-based model to a subscription model. When you change your business model, you're fundamentally changing the rules of your business. It's no longer about eyeballs, top-line growth. It's about loyalty and depth. Now, to do that correctly, you have to really understand your users at a deeper level, and you have to be looking at it differently. The problem is that most companies are doing nothing different. We're using the same techniques they use for the ad-based model to try to optimize subscriptions. With that, you're leaving a lot of money on the table. You can do much more to really provide a better experience because people subscribe for different reasons when they click on articles. What we do is we help them first understand their segments by behavior. So if you're TechCrunch, we could separate out investors from entrepreneurs just based on how they're interacting with your site. From that, you can understand how an investor looks at your site, how they read it, when they come on, how they get there, et cetera, and that same for an entrepreneur. From there, I can tell you what causes an entrepreneur to convert. How do they get to the site? What makes them loyal? And eventually, what makes them finally subscribe? Now, analytics are nice, but we actually directly drive subscriptions. On the site itself, we can show the right article at the right time, which helps drive you through the subscription funnel. So it's not just something you like. It's not like, oh, you like this, you'll also like this. Certain articles drive you deeper in the funnel, and that creates more loyalty. And so we can take that into account. We're optimized for subscriptions. We're thinking long term. We can show you parts of your conversion funnel for different segments where you could be writing content, and that would let you focus your resources in that way. And finally, you can differentiate your marketing according to segment and according to part of the funnel. This is definitely too simple a slide for this conference, but generally we take content, whether it's audio, video, user behavior, images, and more. We can understand that. We create kind of a holistic understanding, and we can understand that across sites too. So we can use data across sites and understand how people generally understand behavior or read content, view content, et cetera, and what makes people subscribe. We use that to power our recommender, our segmenter, our segmentations, and our funnel generation. Our recommender, again, thinks long-term, so we use deep reinforcement learning to really optimize for that long-term subscription. What's going to make someone subscribe, even though they might not subscribe for weeks? Team-wise, I was from at Google. I was working on cloud and on search there. My co-founder Billy was at NASA, where he was working on big data, providing insights to non-technical people. Ryan was a former head of marketing at a big book firm that had over 10 New York Times bestsellers. We did The Book of Joy and Designing Your Life. So we have traction. Set of industries. So in news alone, there's $29 billion generated a year through digital subscription and ad revenue. And we're taking on video streaming, music streaming, esports, financial research, academic publishing, and more. We already have customers in most of these verticals. This creates an opportunity of about $3.4 billion for us if we can bring this to market and really optimize subscriptions. We're raising money right now. We have 10% of the round closed, and I'm happy to talk more if that's interesting.
So a number of questions. The example you gave about TechCrunch, knowing who's an entrepreneur versus an investor. How do you get that labeled data, especially in an anonymous world on the internet that we are mostly on today? And I think part of your thesis here is that we're moving away from that. But how do you get that labeled data?
Yeah, so I oversimplified that a bit. We wouldn't say if it was an entrepreneur or investor, but what we do is we can give you top articles, what they're reading, how they get there. We give you enough key insights about a segment, so we'll call it segment 0, and they have all these key insights. And you, as the head of marketing, can look at that and say that's clearly investors.
Got it. And as you think about a recommendation engine, your recommender that you've built, do you plan to own that, or do you want to give the signals to these companies? For example, if you go to a Netflix or a New York Times, they all have data science and AI teams whose charter is to go and build their recommendation engine to drive these business metrics, right? Their KPIs. So who owns the recommendation engine and the data that's underneath?
So we own the data and the recommender system. Generally, we started with this personalization. As we began to sell to these companies, we realized that, first of all, personalization is a feature. It's hard to scale a feature. Second, these companies don't really know why people subscribe. They still use Google Analytics, things like Amplitude, which can give you good high-level stuff, but it doesn't give you really deep insights on why people are subscribing. And so we talked about interpretability a bit before. That becomes very key to our platform, and that's where a lot of our value is. This is just a way for us to directly drive subscriptions.
So are you a subscription analytics platform, or what drives subscriptions analytics platform, or are you the actual recommender system platform or company that determine what goes on the homepage of a given publisher, or what goes in the email marketing so that it's personalized? Because that was the part I wasn't sure
Yeah,
about.
it's both. And how we think of it is sales as a CRM, like B2B sales. Lots of this stuff makes sense there. They have a CRM that powers a lot of that. B2C SaaS, they don't really have an equivalent. So we're kind of the equivalent for a growth team in a B2C SaaS company.
Just how does the business model and the monetization work for you?
We charge per MAU, and we charge a higher rate for a subscriber. So it's in our interest to create more subscribers and to reduce churn. But we even charge for non-subscribers because most of these companies also have ad revenue as well, and we're increasing engagement on that front too. Great.
Thank the startup presenter and our panelists. So that concludes our two-day conference, and I hope you all have enjoyed your time here. Tomorrow is going to be our training day. We have 3 trainings parallelly in the morning and in the afternoon. The Google training on TensorFlow image understanding is a 4-day training. Then we have natural language understanding for half day by Udacity. Then tensor to tensor, sequence to sequence learning in another room. In the afternoon, we have the continuous Google training. Another room is weekly supervised natural language understanding. The last one is self-driving. Unfortunately, one thing I want to announce is the self-driving class, the instructor got food poison. So he will show through video remotely because he's in East Coast. So that's the self-driving class. So thank you all for coming. I hope you have if you are not coming back, I hope to see you next year. If you're coming back, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.